Did I care? Yeah, I was out of touch. Oh, but it wasn't because I didn't know enough. No, I just knew too much. Oh, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Probably. And I hope that you are having the time of your life. That is my only advice. Come on now, who do you think you are? Ha ha ha, bless your soul. You really trying to control. Oh, well, I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy. Just like me. My heroes had the heart to lose their lives out on the limb. And all I remember is thinking, I wanna be like them. And it's not coincidence I'm gone. Oh, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe we're crazy. Probably. Oh, maybe I'm crazy. Oh, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm
next. Ja, aber das war nicht.
How crazy one day.
has a derby. The only problem is there's so many people around. I could actually sit down and talk, but ew. That's not fair. I've seen none of the boys. No one else around. It's good coffee. My mate was working at the bookstore, but he just didn't look like he wanted to talk. It was too busy, or just, I think it was just busy, but I didn't want to go on. But last coffee of the day. Last professional. I might actually show around more of the suburban side nearby rather than go walk around the Corso again. Do that. At least I'm getting a bit of a walk in before the meeting, etc, etc, etc. Yeah. No. All of it is closed. Man, it's alright, like. So, see apartments and houses. Beach communities around Australia, it's like all the architecture's different. So, from building to building. So, it's pretty cool. Like really old fashioned places too. Like that house there. Expensive as fuck. So I wouldn't live. Okay. Pittwater is just on the other side, and I wouldn't live on this side. It's so tight. Parking's a fucking problem. Noise levels and all that sort of shit. But on the other side, it is a lot more suburban like. But as they say, each their own. But I don't hate it. Like I can get used to it, but it'll probably give you the feeling that you're a part of life, sort of thing. See, beach is there. That's the ocean. Pittwater Road's just there. So on the other side, a lot more suburban life. But when you live here, the local council gives you like parking stickers and shit. So so you don't have to worry about parking limits and stuff. But when you're a resident, but parking, it just means that if you can find a parking space, you can kind of don't worry about moving your car and shit like that. I don't know if I can get it, but did you see it? That's a cat. Might have missed it. Oh, see? The cat. It's going down to the driveway. Whoop. Man, it's alright, like. So, see apartments and houses. Beach communities around Australia, it's like all the architecture's different. So, from building to building. So, it's pretty cool. Like really old fashioned places too. Like that house there. Expensive as fuck. So, it's pretty cool. So these are the kind of houses that people live in. It's really good, pretty gut foot trees and shit. So there's a little walking tour. One side of Manly, I don't think I put a lot on camera, but should send the car spot that I've got too. Bullshit. Illuminati's against me. But such is life. And this street here, I think it's called Miss Smith Street. It's a street that I walk past a lot for work. I think it's Smith Street. So it's more this side of Manly that I'll probably would like to live on. It does have a more of a suburban feel or home feel, whatever fucking way you want to put it. So I'm just having a look where to go. I've been down there. That's where that fucking mural thing is. So parking's still kind of an issue here. It's a lot more easier than the other side of the main road there, close to the beach. Manly, the suburb of Manly is its own fucking bubble. Oh, that's right, that fucking walkway. I've been around here before for work. The cafe that I work at is that way, so I'm not gonna avoid it. I'm sure I got this little tiny area around a bit. I know there's a book thing just down here, so I just may as well check it out while I'm here. Also, that bucket's for free. So one thing I like doing, I used to do when I was homeless, is just walk around and find things like that.
Yeah, that's what they do.
No. Yeah, it's here. Yeah. So, yeah, it's got books in it, but nothing that interests me. But I'm not gonna walk up. So I am gonna walk because I don't like where I've parked my car. It's just one of those minor annoyances and stuff. So once I've fixed it up, I'll be able to sit properly and just fucking talk. Go into like a bit of a stream conscious thing, but oh, okay, no, so that's what I'm getting confused with. I still don't know what this road is called. This one here, but the one I'm on is Smith Street. So sorry for the confusion, but Smith Street, Manly. I'm gonna fucking put that in Google Maps, but yeah, so the suburban, yeah, it's actually quite peaceful. But when I was growing up, before the lockdown laws, it was just like day and night, the difference between like this side of Manly and just like walk 2 or 3 minutes that away. It's like fucking different, man. Especially at night time too. It's so weird. Like, it's like a separation of 1, 2, 3 blocks. Here, like when I was a kid, like, fucking safe as, but you walk, like I said, walk 3 blocks and just like dudes coming up, you fucking give us some money, cunt. And yes, the C word gets thrown around a lot here. But here's somebody's dog as well. Now, I haven't checked out this house up coming out a lot, but Royal Far West Lodge. So it's an historical thing. Well, that's the thing, if you live locally, you don't really check out local history that much. Because you're around it all the time, so it's kind of like, it's not an interest to you. But I don't know if it's an actual hotel or just, or what. So I think it's an actual hotel, like come and stay and shit like that. So the houses on the side here. So old Victorian based style houses in Australia, upper class and all that. So Surrey Hills has a lot. The city area in Sydney is fucking beautiful for architecture and shit like that. But so there's a little bit of a tour around Manly, the suburban side. Forr is fucked, but at least it's a little bit different from fucking the Corso, the business district. So, I'm walking up and down. I can't tell the amount of times that I've walked up and down this Kangaroo Lane and just looking for drugs, money and everything. So much, man. Because up here, it's like caves and fucking all drug dens. There's one drug den still in use. Trust me, people fucking live up there, so. Point out a spot. So up there, see where that tree is? A spot right there. So, would not fucking live through again. Home, this like spot that I would. It's a fucking magnet because there's houses right across the road too. So, but fuck, I'm acting that. So what was that bit here? So, yeah, so now it's on the sailboat. So anyway, Thursday, as I was saying, the dishwasher fucked up, and I kind of left it in I didn't clean it or anything. So I kind of text my boss and like, I'm sorry, but not sure if I did it. I don't know what's wrong, etc., etc., etc. It's all good. So she didn't reply. She replied, but she goes, "Look, Darcy, you know." So yeah, in there's fucking homeless people with everything. I wouldn't cancel just where they sleep, whatever. A couple just walk past it, fucking, what are they called? Fuck that cunt. P plate is still there. Wish me fucking luck reversing out of this. So, anyway, I'm personally blaming the Illuminati, but it is what it is. So I survived. Reversed it. Everything. Some water first. I feel really alone. So like 10 minutes or something to until the meeting starts, 12 steps, so I don't mind it. At least he kind of breaks up the fucking sort of like vibe of not doing anything like I just need to fuck man, I don't just needed to sit down. Roll down my sleeves. So there's an email address, or should be, below. Some dude asked me an email says there's tattoos on my arms that have they rubbed off yet. So I enjoy the pace and clear my head. And just shake it off like a Polaroid. I'll shake it like a Polaroid. My mate, America, sent it to me. You know what I really want? Like a head rub or a head massage at the moment. Don't know why. Je ne sais pas. Just in the mood for one.
Mark Coyne, the chairman of the Daniel Anderson Fund, and like I say, if you can support it, please go to the website danielandersonfund.com.au, danielandersonfund.com.au. That try's been taken off the Warriors.
You know what? This is why this game, rugby league, just continues to create headlines. There was a player, I actually think it should have been a try. The player who got interfered with was nowhere near him and would never have stopped that try.
Yeah,
but they did collide.
Yeah, but this why I get frustrated. Like you see that one, I think you see the one last night. The bloke gets pushed over. It was way close to the ball than that player would have been. And it gets a wonder try. That's, yeah, I'm with you. Inconsistent. Well, that's the only thing that's consistent.
They will always be. Well, they pick and choose when that's what they want to see.
Because you know what, it's human beings. The human beings are all meant to think. That's why some do it, I don't. You know what, you make big statements and I start to agree with you, and then you just finish off with something stupid like that. This is show's about, mate. We have a bit of fun.
Oh,
yeah, I know you think. I'm just waiting for the fun to be produced by you. I've got a topic. Yeah, not yet.
Best time.
Not yet. We'll do it after the break. 6-4, Warriors lead the Dolphins. Warriors. Justice Johnson running the football. Finds the gap. Barges over. Scores the try. 10-4. Big Buddy. Warriors lead the Dolphins as we take you around the ground here on the continuous call team. 10-4 the score. We haven't heard it for a little while, so why not play it? We might do it right now for you. 10-4 Big Buddy if I can find it. It's disappeared out of the system. What great timing. We're off to a break. 10-4 Warriors lead Dolphins. We are the continuous call team.
G'day. Paul Gowan here on behalf of the Cronulla Sharks major partner, Aramex. Want to join one of the fastest growing industries? Aramex couriers deliver for e-commerce businesses all around Australia. To keep up with demand, Aramex has opportunities for new courier franchisees. They've got what it takes to really deliver. Become your own boss. Call 1300-327-892. That's 1300-327-892 today. Or visit aramex.com.au. Aramex is delivery unlimited.
Painting a room for less than $150 is easy as with Easy Coat for installment. Get 4 litres of all-wall paint, 2 litres of ceiling paint, 1 litre of doors and trim paint for less than $150. Visit your local Bunnings today. Easy Coat. Easy as. Some jobs are harder than others, but getting paid shouldn't be. Accept contactless payments for your business with just your iPhone, without any extra hardware. Finalising any job with a simple tap. Tap to pay on iPhone is now available on the Westpac FBOS Air app. Search Westpac FBOS Air to find out how you can get Westpac backed. T's and C's available at westpac.com.au. Eligibility criteria, fees and charges apply. Westpac business transaction account required. Available only on compatible devices.
Hello, this is here. Nan can't get internet. Well, we can help. Is Nan there? Nana!
Tech problem? For remote or on-site help, go to geeknews.com.au or 1300-GEEK-2-U.
I leave a message for Queenie Hennessy. Tell her Harold Fry is on his way. I'll keep walking and she must keep living.
Based on the best-selling novel by Rachel Joy.
To travel the length of England.
Woodward, Jim Broadbent, and Penelope Wilton. The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. In cinemas June 8.
The continuous call team on TV. The McSpicy range has kicked off at Macca's. Available after 10:30 a.m. for a limited time.
Well, I was about to play with a 10-4 scoreline, but there's no need to do that because they're in again here, the Warriors. Wow, they're now out to a 16-4 lead with a kick to come. Bang, bang, 2 quick tries.
Bang, bang.
16-4, kick to come. Warriors lead the Dolphins. That's after 17 minutes of play in the second half as we take you around the grounds for Victoria Racing Club. Wow, the Warriors on a roll here in the the second half. Now, how did you sleep last night? I mean, really sleep. If you woke up feeling fatigued and alone, according to a recent survey conducted by ResMed, 42% of Australians usually feel tired after waking up in the morning, and only 10% wake up feeling refreshed. Results like that are nothing to snooze about. If you're someone who always feels tired, you may be suffering from poor quality sleep. So take a look at resmed.com.au/awaken your best. ResMed's online sleep assessment can help you to better understand your sleep. It's a great first step towards improving your sleep and overall health. For sleep help, think of ResMed and visit resmed.com.au/awaken your best today. Now, Paul, I've got a few operatives in this studio and organisation that tell me about when things are happening. Is it true that you've disposed of the coffee I made for you and didn't want me to know about it? Is that real? Not a fan?
No, it wasn't bad. I just feel too big for me. I had half it. I did ask for a small one, did I not? And he did give me a full one. It was just too much for me.
Okay, fair enough.
So it wasn't bad. No, it was not bad. No. Honestly, can you believe the Warriors? I went back to Warriors last week, and CWZ dropped 2 balls over the line, just scored both tries.
So you've tipped the goal.
Did you see what the try scored before? Oh, it's a try of the season. And now they're winning 18 for the score.
So there's a great crowd there. 23,686. That's a tremendous crowd. But I don't know. Oh, it's formerly Mount Smart. It's called Go Media Stadium.
Yeah, Mount Smart Stadium. They Napier last week and Mount Smart this week. 18 points to 4. Warriors lead the Dolphins. Go Leeds, go Big Man and Virgo. And regards to Coyne, it was after Daniel Anderson had 4 daughters. Coyne said he had a mixture of types in regards to children. Was he being politically correct from David? No, he was just, hey, look, she's got boys and girls.
Yeah, I thought he had 4 girls. He does have boys and girls.
Now, what did you want to raise before we took that break?
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's there yet, but it should be. It's about roughly about half an hour before the meeting starts. So hopefully somebody's there. But I'm off to the meeting. And what I was gonna say, it's fucking hell. Hopefully I get something out of the meeting, grow, and all that sort of stuff. So mental health, good mental health is a good life. So develop, grow, educate, learn, all that sort of stuff. Be a good person, practice morality and ethics as well, so develop those as well. So anyway, no Illuminati shit too. So like, I hope people fucking realise I'm joking that shit, but Illuminati's real, but I'm not fucking farting with anything. But author of the day, or historian I should say, Howard Zinn, check him out. Howard Zinn. Another good YouTube channel to check out is Conversations with History as well. So if you want a good place to start, salute. Nobody's here yet, so he is, but he's not here to open up. But good guy though. I'm wearing socks at the moment. I don't know why, but I always feel like whenever I'm wearing socks, it's just like I feel like a dork. But socks are cool. Like keep my feet warm and clean. Actually, I think it's more hygienic to have fucking socks on than no socks. Not see anybody coming up or down, so 0. Oh, someone's gonna be staying there the night, man. But fucking restless and fuck. Let's go sit down. Xavier? Come on, give him some space.
So then scroll down afterwards and see the comments where he's bashed by many anarchists and leftists alike, as well as those that just don't like him because he's a man and white. But I do support his opinion, and I am going to take this opportunity to read that piece from Truth Dig that Chris Hedges had written in response. But first, I'm gonna say that I support the Occupy movement and I took part in some of the demonstrations, and I've been a demonstrator and a protester since the late 1960s. I've taken part at that time in militant and violent demonstrations. I was very much in solidarity with the weather people at the time. I'm not I am a peace advocate, nonetheless. And this is the paradox of our state, as not only leftists, but as humans. We want peace, but we live in a violent culture, and we live in a violent time, and we are not perfect people. That's why we need to go to nonviolence training sessions that are such as the one happening this weekend. But all that said, the struggle within Occupy, the dialogue and the discussion going on as to whether or not they are nonviolent or whether to allow certain types of violence, took place in general assemblies before they even started. They agreed, apparently, to be a nonviolent form of protest. But this group of anarchists were able to weasel in with the term diversity of tactics, which they kind of misrepresented. And as it turned out, the diversity of tactics is a violence and destruction of property and looting and randomness of rage, which seems totally out of place, or at least out of context, because in the 60s, in the violence that occurred there, we were being shot down. We were being at Kent State. We were there was a history of escalation in the war in Vietnam and the war against the protesters. Occupy is new. It's not like protests are new, and the left isn't new, but it was a bright shining light that seemed to offer hope of bringing together coalitions of the masses and different groups. That doesn't seem to be what the Black Bloc has in mind, and it seems as though, to me, that it's the jihad, so to speak, which is the inner struggle inside between violence and nonviolence, really should err on the side of nonviolence, not only as a tactic but as a lifestyle, and for a movement to have that as their marquee and their flag towards as success. But in order to achieve that, I believe what Chris Hedges believes, and I will read that, what the thoughts of Chris Hedges. The Black Bloc anarchists who have been active on the streets in Oakland and other cities are the cancer of the Occupy movement. The presence of Black Bloc anarchists, so named because they dress in black, obscure their faces, move as a unified mass, seek physical confrontations with police and destroy property, is a gift from heaven to the security and surveillance state. The Occupy encampments in various cities were shut down precisely because they were nonviolent. They were shut down because the state realized the potential of their broad appeal, even to those within the systems of power. They were shut down because they articulated a truth about our economic and political system that cut across political and cultural lines. And they were shut down because they were places mothers and fathers with strollers felt safe. Black Bloc adherents detest those of us on the organized left and seek quite consciously to take away our tools of empowerment. They confuse acts of petty vandalism and repellent cynicism with revolution. The real enemies, they argue, are not the corporate capitalists, but their collaborators among the unions, workers' movements, radical intellectuals, environmental activists, and populist movements such as the Zapatistas. Any group that seeks to rebuild social structures, especially through nonviolent acts of civil disobedience rather than physically destroy, becomes, in the eyes of Black Bloc anarchists, the enemy. Black Bloc anarchists spend most of their fury not on the architects of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, or globalism, but on those such as the Zapatistas who respond to the problem. It is a grotesque inversion of value systems. Because Black Bloc anarchists do not believe in organization, indeed oppose all organized movements, they ensure their own powerlessness. They can only be obstructionist. And they are primarily obstructionist to those who resist. John Zerzan, one of the principal ideologues of the Black Bloc movement in the United States, defended industrial society and its future. That's the Rambling Manifesto, according to Chris Hedges, by Theodore Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber. Although he did not endorse Kaczynski's bombings, Zerzan is a fierce critic of a long list of supposed sellouts, starting with Noam Chomsky. Black Bloc anarchists are an example of what Theodore Roosevelt, in the making of a counterculture, called the progressive adolescentation of the American left. In Zerzan's now-defunct magazine, Green Anarchy, which survives as a website, he published an article by someone named Venomous Butterfly that excoriated the Zapatista Army for national liberation. The essay declared that not only are the Zapatistas' aims not anarchist, they are not even revolutionary. It also denounced the indigenous movement for the nationalist language, for asserting the right of people to alter or modify their form of government, and for having goals of work, land, housing, healthcare, education, independence, freedom, democracy, justice, and peace. The movement, the article stated, was not worthy of support because it called for nothing concrete that could not be provided by capitalism. Of course, the article went on, the social struggles of exploited and oppressed people cannot be expected to conform to some abstract anarchist ideal. These struggles arise in particular situations sparked by specific events. The question of revolutionary solidarity in these struggles is, therefore, the question of how to intervene in a way that is fitting with one's aims, in a way that moves one's revolutionary anarchist project forward. Solidarity becomes the hijacking of or destruction of competing movements, which is exactly what the Black Bloc contingents are attempting to do with the Occupy movement. I'm reading right now from Chris Hedges' article on the Black Bloc violence. Black Bloc can say they are attacking cops, but what they are really doing is destroying the Occupy movement. The writer and environmental activist Derek Jensen told me when I reached him by phone in California. If their real target actually was the cops and not the Occupy movement, the Black Bloc would make others, their actions completely separate from Occupy, instead of effectively using these as human shields. Other attacks on cops are simply, their attacks on cops are simply a means to an end, which is to destroy a movement that doesn't fit their ideological standard. I don't have a problem with escalating tactics to some sort of militant resistance as an appropriate morally, strategically, and tactically, Jensen continued. This is true if one is going to pick up a sign, a rock, or a gun. But you need to have thought it through. The Black Bloc spends much more of its time attempting to destroy movements than they do attacking those in power. They hate the left more than they hate capitalists. Their thinking is not only non-strategic, but actively opposed to strategy, said Jensen, author of several books, including The Culture of Make-Believe. They are unwilling to think critically about whether one is acting appropriately in the moment. I have no problem with someone violating boundaries when that violation is smart, appropriate thing to do. I have a huge problem with people violating boundaries for the sake of violating boundaries. It is a lot easier to pick up a rock and throw it through the nearest window than it is to organize, or at least figure out which window you want to throw the rock through if you're going to throw a rock. Groups of Black Bloc protesters, for example, smashed the windows of a locally owned coffee shop in November in Oakland and looted it. It was not, as Jensen points out, a strategic, moral, or tactical act. It was done for its own sake. Random acts of violence, looting, and vandalism are justified in the jargon of the movement as components of feral or spontaneous insurrection. Quotes. These acts, the movement argues, can never be organized. Organization in the thinking of the movement implies hierarchy, which must always be opposed. There can be no restraints on feral or spontaneous acts of insurrection. Whoever gets hurt, gets hurt. Whatever gets destroyed, gets destroyed. There is a word for this. Criminal. The Black Bloc movement is infected with a deeply disturbing hypermasculinity. This hypermasculinity, I expect, is its primary appeal. It taps into the lust that lurks within us to destroy, not only things but human beings. It offers the godlike power that comes with mob violence. Marching as an uniform mass, all dressed in black, to become part of an anonymous bloc, faces covered, temporarily comes alienation, feelings of inadequacy, powerlessness, and loneliness. It imparts to those in the mob a sense of comradeship. It permits an inchoate rage to be unleashed on any target. Pity, compassion, and tenderness are banished for the intoxication of power. It is the same sickness that fuels the swarms of police who pepper spray and beat peaceful demonstrators. It is the sickness of I just lost my place there, sorry. But you're getting the idea. It is the sickness that fuels the swarms of police who pepper spray and beat peaceful demonstrators. It is the sickness of the soldiers in war. It turns human beings into beasts. Quote, "We run on," Eric Maria Remarque wrote in All Quiet on the Western Front. "Overwhelmed by this wave that bears us along, that fills us with ferocity, turns us into thugs, into murderers, into God only knows what devils. This wave that multiplies our strength with fear and madness and greed of life, seeking and fighting for nothing but our deliverance." The corporate state understands and welcomes the language of force. It can use the Black Bloc's confrontational tactics and destruction of property to justify draconian forms of control and frighten the wider population away from supporting the Occupy movement. Once the Occupy movement is painted as a flag-burning, rock-throwing, angry mob, we are finished. If we become isolated, we can be crushed. The arrest last week, this was in January, in Oakland of more than 400 protesters, some of whom had thrown rocks, carried homemade shields, and rolled barricades are an indication of the scale of escalating repression and a failure to remain a unified nonviolent opposition. Police pumped tear gas, flashbang grenades, and less lethal rounds into the crowds. Once protesters were in jail, they were denied crucial medications, kept in overcrowded cells, and pushed around. A march in New York called in solidarity with the Oakland protests saw a few demonstrators imitate the Black Bloc tactics in Oakland, including throwing bottles at police and dumping garbage cans on the street. They chanted, they chanted some things that I can't repeat right here. This is a struggle to win the hearts and minds of the wider public and those within the structures of power, including the police, who are possessed of a conscience. It is not a war. Nonviolent movements, on some level, embrace police brutality. The continuing attempt by the state to crush peaceful protesters who call for simple acts of justice delegitimizes the power elite. It prompts a passive population to respond. It brings some within the structures of power to our side and creates internal divisions that will lead to paralysis within the network of authority. Martin Luther King kept holding marches in Birmingham because he knew Public Safety Commissioner Bull Connor was a thug who would overreact. The Black Bloc's thought-terminating cliche of diversity of tactics, in the end, opens the way for hundreds of thousands of peaceful marchers to be discredited by a handful of hooligans. The state could not be happier. It is a safe bet that among Black Bloc groups in cities such as Oakland, agents provocateurs, spurring them on to more mayhem. But with or without police infiltration, the Black Bloc is serving the interests of the 1%. These anarchists represent no one but themselves. Those in Oakland, although most are white and many are not from the city, arrogantly dismiss Oakland's African-American leaders who, along with other local community organizers, should be determining the forms of resistance. The explosive rise of the Occupy Wall Street movement came when a few women trapped behind orange mesh netting were pepper sprayed by NYPD Deputy Inspector Anthony Bologna. The violence and cruelty of the state were exposed, and the Occupy movement, through its steadfast refusal to respond to police provocation, resonated across the country. Losing this moral authority, this ability to show through nonviolent protest, the corruption and decadence of the corporate state would be crippling to the movement. It would reduce us to the moral degradation of our oppressors. And that is what our oppressors want. The Black Bloc movement bears the rigidity and dogmatism of all absolutism sects. Its adherents alone possess the truth. They alone understand. They alone arrogate the right. But they are enlightened and we are not. To dismiss and ignore competing points of view as infantile and irrelevant. They hear only their own voices. They hear only their own thoughts. They believe only their own cliches. And this makes them not only deeply intolerant, but stupid. Once you are hostile to organization and strategic thinking, the only thing that remains is lifestyle purity, Jensen said. Lifestyleism has supplanted organization in terms of a lot of mainstream environmental thinking. Instead of opposing the corporate state, lifestyleism maintains we should use less toilet paper and should compost. This attitude is ineffective. Once you give up on organizing or are hostile to it, all you are left with is hyperpurity that becomes rigid dogma. You attack people who, for example, use a telephone. This is true with vegans and questions of diet. It is also true with anti-car activists towards those who drive cars. It is the same with the anarchists. When I called the police after I received death threats, I became to Black Bloc anarchists a pig lover. If you live on Ogoni land, and you see that Ken Saro-Wiwa is murdered for acts of nonviolent resistance, Jensen said, if you see that the land is still being trashed, then you might think about escalating. I don't have a problem with that, but we have to go through the process of trying to work with the system and getting screwed. It is only then that we get to move beyond it. We can't short-circuit the process. There is a maturation process we have to go through as individuals and as a movement. We can't say, hey, I'm going to throw a flower pot at a cop because it's fun. The thoughts of Chris Hedges on February 6th on the Black Bloc contingent. Chris Hedges spent nearly 2 decades as a foreign correspondent in Central America and Middle East, Africa, and Balkans. He's reported on more than 50 countries and has worked for the Christian Science Monitor, the National Public Radio, Daily Morning News, New York Times. He has published several books as a tactic, as a movement within the Occupy movement. It is I am of the opinion that if it is not summarily banned and discredited by the Occupy movement is finished. And apparently, the group Anonymous, the hacking resistance group, agrees with me. I'm going to play right now their response to the Black Bloc actions in January.
Greetings. We are Anonymous. The response from fellow Anons to Black Bloc has been overwhelming. Peacefully shutting down banks and locations has had a far greater economic impact than Black Bloc's pitiful acts of vandalism could ever dream of. They are not anonymous, they are cancer. This issue has been discussed many times during the past several months, and there appears to be a popular consensus that your tactics of chilling and intimidating the citizen press, breaking the windows of small businesses, terrorizing innocent employees and bystanders, and sometimes outright assaulting Occupy protesters are unacceptable. You are at best misguided, harmful, and idiotic in your actions. But more than anything it is your cowardice in hiding behind the banner of the Occupy movement, using Occupy protesters as shields, and attempting to pin your actions on Anonymous that will not be forgiven. We suspect that many of you are agent provocateurs. As for the rest, who behave in such a manner, your tactics demonize us in the eyes of the general public, robbing Occupy of much-needed support, both in finances and approval. And worse, your activities provide the illusion of justified police brutality, robbing Occupy of the moral high ground, and providing ammunition to the media. Consider this an act of diplomacy, before we start doxing your asses all over the internet, and paying special attention to personally ruining your lives. You have a choice. Abandon your pathetic, ineffective, and counterproductive tactics, and join us, or step aside, or risk the wrath of Legion. If you harm Occupy, or attempt to pin your thuggish crimes on Anonymous, we will not forgive. If you travel like a gang and attempt to intimidate Occupy, we will get all up in your base, finding all your secrets, and wiping out your toots. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget.
All
Expect
right.
us.
That's pretty terrifying. That's Anonymous. The message on YouTube, Anonymous warning to the Black Bloc anarchists who say they're not a movement, they are a tactic, and they're using tactics that have been used in the peace and justice movement. We encountered them there, and with the same result. And this is not just about Occupy. This is about the left, if there is one, and it's about where we go. What is our vision for America? What is our vision of...
Hello, this is Dr. Blaise Bonpane presenting Controversy and Action, a program produced by the Office of the Americas and dedicated to in-depth information and commentary on world affairs. Today I'm honored to converse once again with Dr. Noam Chomsky, Professor of Linguistics at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I know that there has been a lot of reference recently to conversion, and the word sounds like a religious term, and maybe it really is, but the concern I have today is how we convert from a permanent war economy into peacetime. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, of course, this is an issue that has been discussed and advanced by the peace movement for decades. And it's It sounds good. I mean, I'm obviously for it, just as you are, but we shouldn't mislead ourselves or others. There are rather deep reasons why the United States has a permanent war economy. These reasons go back really to the Depression. In the Great Depression of the 1930s, the system that existed, the state capitalist system that existed, really came close to grinding to a halt. The New Deal measures were quite ineffective. There were still 9 million unemployed by 1939. Nothing much had changed. Then the war came along, and the war taught a lesson, which is later called the lesson of Keynesian economics, so you didn't have to read Keynes to figure it out. The lesson was that if the government organized production and directed massive public subsidies into production, it could rescue the capitalist economy from collapse. Now, that lesson was taught to corporate managers who flooded into Washington to run the wartime economy. And they left that experience with a firm conviction that the government was going to have to continue to maintain a public subsidy to advanced industry in order for it to survive. Now, for a couple of years after the war in the late 1940s, there was enough pent-up demand, consumption demand, so the problem didn't arise very seriously. But by 1949, the signs of recession were very clear, and there was great concern that we're going to head right back to the Great Depression again, which was a very serious matter, as people of our age will recall. By 1949 and 1950, it was recognized that there had to be another major government stimulus. Now, the major document of the Cold War, the major document, which everyone agrees in retrospect, is National Security Council Memorandum 68, NSC 68 of 1950, a couple of months before the Korean War, which sort of set the future developments on its way. That was a top-secret document later accepted as government policy, and it called for a war. It said we are virtually at war with the Soviet Union. It was all kind of hysteria about the Soviet plan to conquer the planet and so on. It called for a huge increase in armaments, later turned out to be virtually quadrupling, even though conceding that the United States was already probably spending twice the amount that the Russians were, though their allies alone were duplicating their efforts. But it also made the pertinent point that and this is part of the heart of it, that military expenditures would revitalize the economy. And that was sort of, that's one significant. It also talked about how we would have to have sacrifice and cut back on civil liberties and so on. That was the sort of, the internal document that set the Cold War going and later became translated into a lot of public documents and actions. But a large part of the reasoning was military Keynesianism. This would stimulate the economy, which is beginning to deteriorate. About that time, the Marshall Plan was kind of coming to an end, and it had not achieved its objectives. It had largely failed. In fact, another stimulus was needed in order to recreate the industrial systems in Japan and Europe, which we needed as our trading partners, and as there was a lot of concern about U.S. exports, which couldn't be purchased, manufacturing exports. We needed those markets. And the way that was selected there, too, was militarization. It was militarism, arms, that drove the post-war economies in Europe and Japan as well. And that has been the major means of government stimulation of the economy. Now, it's a mistake to think of this just as armaments. It's also true. It's true of high technology in general. So, for example, say take computers, which are right at the core of a modern economy. During the 1950s, computers were not at a level where they could be sold at on the commercial market. Had not reached that level. So the public paid for them. 100% of development, research and development of computers was paid for through the Pentagon. By the 1960s, they had become marketable to an extent, and about 50% of the cost of developing computers was now paid by the public, namely the Pentagon. By the 1980s, when it was necessary to start a new development of so-called fifth-generation computers, and big new technology, semiconductors, and so on, the expenses shifted back to the public.
And what we hope to do with all this incredible spending is, through some form of popular economics, get across that this material that has been produced in large part has no use value, and that if we're paying, as I understand right now, for 900,000 people overseas, that's 500 in the military and 400,000 in civilian support work, that can't our people understand that this is why a $25,000 house costs $250,000, that so much money has been placed into circulation and so little use value has been produced, that this creates a perpetual inflationary situation. That's what we hope to do with this initiative in California, and to reduce, to urge a reduction of, say, 5% per year. I think it's an educational process. I wonder how you feel about that.
Well, if we want to educate, we have to be honest, and we have to be a little careful about the notion of use value.
Yes.
If you mean use for people,
yes,
for you and me and other people, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
If you mean use for a corporate manager, it's quite a different matter.
Mm-hmm.
For a corporate manager, the Pentagon system is basically a gift. The Pentagon system pays the costs, meaning the public through the Pentagon, pays the costs of research and development, which are not profitable. Then if anything comes out, it's handed over to the private corporations for profit. The Pentagon system provides a state-guaranteed market for high-technology production. It means the public is going to purchase whatever junk is produced, and that's a cushion for planning. It enables corporate managers to use funds for productive investment when it's possible, but they got this guarantee that the public will bail them out and keep them going.
But can't they see the very dangerous nature of this? You have state funds used ultimately for private profit, and you also have a situation where the profit goes to the hands of a few, but the costs are borne by everyone.
That's what we call free enterprise, is public subsidy and narrowly concentrated private profit. It takes a couple of weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article headlined, "The Unsettling Specter of Peace."
Yes.
They were concerned about the danger of peace. It's an unsettling specter.
Mm-hmm.
It does threaten this method of public subsidy of high technology, which, as you say, for the few. When you read down the article, you find, for example, they quote former Army Chief of Staff Meyer, and he says, well, not a big problem. The new peacetime army is going to be very high tech. He says, fancy electronics and robot tanks and so on, which won't be used for any military purpose, but that's not the point. And he says that'll be plenty of business for the electronics industry and so on. When Star Wars was marketed, not to the folks at home, when somebody gave a speech about Star Wars to the population, they talked about how we have to protect ourselves from the Russians. But when Abramson went out to the business community, or when they went to Europe and Japan, they talked about the business opportunities that would come out of this. And those are things we have to understand. And the further point to make is that alternatives are not so simple. Now, an economist can sit down and tell you, and he's right, that expenditures for infrastructure and for social needs and so on will have the same stimulative effect, maybe even a better stimulative effect than waste production. But the trouble with that, and in fact, business is well aware of that. I mean, business journals back to the late 1940s have been pointing this out. But they're against it, nevertheless. And they're against it on very clear and understandable grounds from their point of view. There is going to be a government input to the economy, government economic management. That's inevitable in a state capitalist system. The question is what it will be. If it's through the Pentagon system, it's basically a gift to the corporate manager. It doesn't interfere with corporate prerogatives. Businessmen make their own decisions. The government, that is the public, government just means the public, just buys it or funds them and so on.
Well, I think, however, in spite of all this, there is a realignment going on in thinking. It reminds me of someone who said the revolution in our country took place between 1760 and 1770, when people began to change their viewpoint of what monarchy was or should be and what their future should be. I think that we're hearing a lot of rejection of the concept of the permanent war economy. And, for example, people can simply look at Japan and see the enormous productive capacity of useful items and realize that she has spent only, 1 or 2% of her budget on the military, and they could see that, I believe, as a formula for success. So what I'm driving at is that I think this peace breaking out that is maybe going to terrify the Wall Street people and others and the military industrial people, it is beyond, I think, their control. I don't believe they're going to be able to do anything about it, and I find that quite exciting.
I wish I could agree with you about that, but I don't think it's true. There's a lot that they can do about it, and they are doing things about it. We have to remember that this is a political system which is run basically by the wealthy, by the corporations for their interests. And they have many means that they can use. Now, Japan, you take your analogy to the ending the monarchy. It wasn't enough to think that we don't want a monarchy. You had to fight about it.
Yes.
Fight for it. It doesn't just happen. Japan has a disciplined society. Japan also has a state-organized economic system with massive interstate intervention and coordination. And they simply direct investment and resources directly to the commercial market. Our system does it in a devious way through the Pentagon, and then if there's any spin-off to the commercial market, naturally that's much less efficient, as you say. But there's a reason for that. The reason is that this is a relatively free country, and Japan is a very disciplined country, much less free, in fact. So the Japanese population, if they're told to, here's the way your money's going to be spent, here's what your consumption level is going to be, here's the way you're going to live, and so on, because we have to fund high technology, there are very few questions raised. In the United States, no politician is going to say that. What you have to say here is the Russians are coming, or international terrorists are coming, or Nicaragua's coming, or drug peddlers are coming, and therefore we have to arm ourselves to the teeth, and incidentally it's going to fund advanced industry. That's not so easy to get out of. It does take an understanding on the part of the public, but let me go back to the point that I was in the middle of, which is rather crucial. Why not have public funds go to to things of utility? First of all, if public funds go to producing anything that you and I can use, it's interfering with the rights of business. That's one of the reasons why it's useless material that's funded. That doesn't interfere with the rights of business. Secondly, even investment in, say, infrastructure, like roads and hospitals and so on, while it has a stimulative effect, as business has long recognized, it has the effect, also has other effects. It has the effect of organizing new constituencies. That is, people care about those things. They make decisions about them, and they get involved in them. It redistributes income. It gets people more involved in the political process. And all of those are things that elite groups don't want.
But the problem is, I believe, Noam, that even the mass media, through programs like 60 Minutes, are pointing out that the infrastructure of the United States is in shambles, that our dams are gone and our highways are in disrepair and our cities are a disaster, both from the standpoint of building and air, and all of this is becoming common knowledge. So there seem to be certain elements in the area of power in our country that understand that we must engage in useful production.
Well, in fact, there was just the other day, a front-page story in the New York Times which quoted a number of business executives pointing out what is, in fact, ought to be common knowledge, that we're developing our own third world at home, and that's going to be very harmful to business interests. There won't be people to do the clerical jobs. More than half the new jobs from about the mid-'80s through the year 2000 are going to have to be filled by minorities. And those are the people who are living in deteriorating, decaying inner cities without decent schools and without opportunities, not learning literacy and let alone computer literacy, which they'll need, and so on. That's a problem. But the trouble is a real conflict there. If public funds go into those areas, they will enhance the interests of the general public, and also the involvement of the general public in public affairs, and they will redistribute income and so on, and they will limit and interfere with the prerogatives of the wealthy. Now, since it's basically the wealthy who set policy, they're in a conflict. On the one hand, they would like to maintain the gift to corporate managers in the Pentagon system. On the other hand, they recognize that they're going to lose out that way. In fact, it's a situation which in some ways is like that of business in South Africa. Some years back, business interests in South Africa began to come to recognize that apartheid is just not a viable system for them. In a modern industrial society, you don't want a population of slaves to go down into the mines. You need skilled workers and managers and people who can follow orders and so on. So there's a conflict. I mean, there's pressure for apartheid because of the privilege it affords, and there's pressure against it because you can't sustain your own even narrow business interests that way. And we're facing a similar situation with our own kind of de facto apartheid. But if matters were simply left in the hands of the elites who have been running policy, I think they'd probably to the Pentagon system, no matter how wasteful it is. If there's going to be a move towards conversion, it's going to have to involve something like a social revolution.
Well, I think that's certainly what is called for, because we see these problems certainly in both the Democratic and Republican side. I can't help but think of the fact that Senator Harkin had a program to cut back half the military aid to El Salvador, and the program was destroyed by Senator Dodd, who came in with a program for aid to the military of El Salvador, which was almost the same as what President Bush wanted. So we have to certainly look for movements outside of the party structure, and that's why I was rather taken with the sophisticated process of the voters to end the arms race, taking it upon themselves to form an initiative for the state of California, where the state would put the federal government, the national government, on notice that they wanted to enter into a process of conversion in the most military-oriented state in the Union. I often wonder how self-conscious they are. I often wonder if there aren't exceptions among them that understand the basic insanity of their position. Do you feel that there is a homogeneity to that, the elements that have the power, or do we see some exceptions among them?
There's a limited range of opinion. It's rather limited, but remember, in a competitive system, in a system where you're trying to make money, or any kind of competitive system for that matter, there's a rather strong pressure to be concerned primarily for short-term advantage. If somebody puts their resources, let's be concrete. Suppose you got two automobile companies, say GM and Ford, and suppose one of them is putting their resources into making the most money next year, and the other one is putting their money into planning the best cars for 10 years from now. Well, the trouble is it's the second one that's doing the reasonable thing from the point of view of the consumers and future generations and so on. But they're not going to be in business in 10 years because they'll be undermined by the short-term profit made by their competitor. Now, I don't want to suggest that this is completely mechanical, but that's a tendency that exists in a capitalist economy, in fact, in any competitive system, that leads people to concentrate on short-term gain, the bottom line for the next quarter. That's the way you get a raise, that's the way you keep your job, that's the way you get profit for tomorrow to invest, and so on. And that leads to very irrational social decisions.
I can understand that, but in certain areas we're being confronted with disaster. For example, in Los Angeles, we have a level of air pollution that some scientists from UCLA said was the equivalent of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. I think we're at the point where we're going to have something like the experience of London in the 50s of people dropping off because of carbon monoxide. People driving to work into a pea soup of atmospheric sewerage every day. regardless of where they're coming from in terms of their political views, must understand that some fundamental changes are necessary. If we could vote to get rid of the smog, I think we would do that. But apparently we aren't able to do things like that. What I'm driving at is there's certain things taking place in our society where there's very little time left to avoid disasters. Do we have to wait for those disasters to see some change in the economic perspective of the military-industrial complex?
Well, if we wait, we're out of luck.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's not going to happen by itself. I mean, to go back to your earlier analogy, any more than the American Revolution took place by itself.
Yes, first it was a process of thinking. I can remember seeing some early sermons from the 17th century stating that obedience to the king is obedience to God. And then I was reviewing some sermons later from the 1760s which were saying obedience to tyrants is disobedience to God. So there is there is somehow a matter of perspective here, I think. I do believe the viewpoint of people in religiously accepting what the administration says is extremely dangerous, and that they will have to understand that such authority has to be questioned as a matter of routine.
They certainly have to understand that, and they also have to understand what they're up against. I mean, it's not as if in charge are simply making decisions which are irrational from their point of view. Their point of view is basically short-term gain. And from that point of view, there's kind of rationality to what they're doing, even though its general social effects and its long-term effects are disastrous. And that means that we have to have different kinds of social planning. We have to move towards an actual functioning democracy in which the general population doesn't just come around every once in a while and ratify decisions that have been made by others, but actually participates in making them. Now, the initiative that you mentioned at the beginning is very much to the point, but if I can keep to your analogy, an initiative signed by people in the 13 colonies in...
So I'm in Manly again. I'm actually going to do that walk thing. Till in Manly and back. It's going to be annoying as fuck walking back part. But I had to do a tour in Manly. but it's more homeless parts in Manly, so fuck, what's the street called? I think it's James Street, but yeah, anyway, you'll be able to find it. It's across the road from the aquarium. Okay, I'm starting to think the aquarium's not in use anymore. Yeah, hang on. Flip the camera. Graffiti there's been there for ages, and it's like actual blanked up. The walls are blanked up, so let's have a look, eh? I've noticed the graffiti before, but I thought, look, it's such a awkward position. We'll take a bit of climb up, but I never noticed the boards up yet. If it is closed, it's probably been in the news and stuff. Just oblivious to it, so let's continue watching, okay? So let's have a look. Yeah, the windows are pretty dirty. Somebody's beer and all that. Okay. Somebody stomped. There's some shit there. Foxes. Havoc. Some knocked up shit. Open gate. So, alright, so I've just noticed it being boarded up here, see? Cops. That's the police boat, the one I just pointed out. Oh, there's a fish washed up. Fuck. See like a dead fish on the rocks just there. So, have a look. Alright, so I'm going for a walk to show somewhere a little bit different from where I normally would hang around at. So, there's nothing in here besides a few bongs and some shit. So I stopped myself from going fucking further and I had to take a piss. So but it looks like somebody's rode their bikes. A timer is on the ground just there. Like I've not walked along here in years. So anyway, at a beach. So, which is not being used, so stop. I'm not going to walk much further, so suburbia is that way. It's a good local walk to be honest, but once or twice you can see it. Probably won't, yeah. Unless if there's, you live by here or your friends want to come here, you do it a couple times, you don't want to come like do it again, so. But, trying to compensate for not promising the Shelley walk, so. Hang on. So here's the rest of the grass, the picnic side to it. So that's how close you are to people's yards and shit. So. I'm not walking further. Side note, it's part of the Spit to Manly walk too, this is, so. So a little bit other places you can come to Manly. So rock fishing, if you're into rock fishing, you can come here. Scenic walk. Sydney City's that way by ferry, so Northern Beaches council better pay me for this shit too. No, that's alright.
But it is good because the humans could
I wasn't filming. It's not recording there, so entrance to Manly Pavilion. Trail parking, it's just on the sign. It's a fancy place for elite wannabes, so it's not open so I can film. I won't be wigged out by fucking the amount of kids here, but waterworks, yeah, top of waterworks. So there you go. Show how close we are to apartments and stuff. That's a house. Pretty sure that's a house. Apartments there. So that's the back waterworks. The amount of times I've driven this road is unbelievable. Something got on my eye. But it's alright, you find little, to be honest, one thing I like about living in Sydney is like you do find little gems and stuff. So, so that's a bit of something else to show you besides fucking my normal routine. So, and there'll be like just random shit. That's what I was kind of looking at to see if I can find like anything worth showing. So, but if you're into finding random shit, it's have a look at like bushland like that. So, okay, oh. So something a bit different, but I really need to go to the toilet. My gun's okay, like guy getting done by the cops. Who knows? So, a little bit of this area.
To die by your side, all the pleasure and the privilege is mine. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out. There is a light and it never goes out.
pretty good, huh? Forgot that.
She's a little like the tide, always changing her mind. Enjoy the songs. She's a little like the sun, who's making love to my eyes. Yeah. She's kinda like wine on a Friday night. There's no place I've been, place I've seen compares to your smile. European skies, they just couldn't cut it. She packed the bag, set up, so she saw she's going down. Would you let me around? And she went far wide across the night sky, then crashed and burned, you fly high. She was all alone. She didn't want to go home, didn't want to let go. Sold her heart to a man on the road, and it goes to show it doesn't really matter yet. If you broke in alone to the East Coast, dreamed in the West Coast, fell in love on the way to the South Coast. Thank you all the time I spent up in the sky, had a gypsy on the mile. She said she's running out of time. I said I'd give her all of mine. Yeah. She's got the craziest eyes. I will lay down to die. Yeah. European skies, they just couldn't cut. She packed the bag, set up, so she's how she's going now. Would you let me around? She went far wide across the night sky and crashed a bird, you fly high. She was all alone. She didn't want to go home, didn't want to let go. Sold her heart to a van on the road, and it goes to show it doesn't really matter yet. If you broke in alone to the East Coast, dreamed in the West Coast, fell in love on the way to the South Coast. All that time spent up in the sky, had a gypsy on the mind. Didn't want to go home, didn't want to let go. Sold her heart to a van on the road, and it goes to show it doesn't really matter yet. If you broke in alone to the East Coast, dreamed in the West Coast, fell in love on the way to the South Coast. All that time spent up in the sky. Didn't want to go home, didn't want to let go. Sold her heart to a van on the road, and it goes to show it doesn't really matter yet. Alone to the East Coast, dreamed in the West Coast, fell in love on the way to the South Coast. She had a gypsy on the line, yeah. She didn't want to go home, didn't want to let go. Sold her heart to a van on the road, and it goes to show doesn't really matter yet. Broke in alone to the East Coast, dreamed in the West Coast, fell in love on the way to the South Coast. All that time spent up in the sky. She had a gypsy on the mind. Yeah. Gypsy on the mind. Two more songs. My hands start getting cold when it gets the song. Play a song, it's called the Pocahontas song. It goes like this. As I watch as the sun go down, another day lost, and I wonder where you woke up this morning. Just last night it was a kiss, just a touch, your lips. She was beautiful. sky. Scream the lyrics loud, not shout. Put your hand in mine and well, we fell perfectly together. Thing is, she looks like Pocahontas, but wears these high top sneakers with a button up, so when she's really beautiful, beautiful. She grabbed me closer, so I said, hypothetically, theoretically, you know, she said nothing but kiss me instead as the sun starts to rise in this twilight night. It's the kiss me for the last time. And she was gone as the daylight comes. Probably never see her again. Gone as the daylight comes. Yeah, we'll fall in love on time. It's just a fling, but that is the thing. I don't wanna know if you wanna hear the song right here. You sing along, would you turn it off, turn it up? Would you learn the lyrics and call me the next morning? Because I don't know what I want, what you want. The thing is, she looks like Pocahontas, but wears these high top sneakers with a button up. So we don't know she's really beautiful. She grabbed me closer, so I said, hypothetically, theoretically, no. She said nothing but kiss me instead as the sun starts to rise in this twilight night. It's the kiss me for the last time. And she was gone as the daylight comes, and I'll probably never see her again. Gone as the daylight comes, and I'll probably never see you again. Gone as the daylight comes, and I'll probably never see you again. Gone as the daylight comes, and fall in love all the time. Thank you. I'm gonna play one more song.
Fuck, I just want a cigarette. Fucking wind. The other day there was like a rat video shot there. Some of the creatures are manly. Instagram page. That guy was here last week too, that musician. But seems a pretty good dude. Right. Fucking getting cold. I don't know how much longer I can hang around Manly for, but so markets, scenic routes, buskers. And driving skills. I know what's down here anyway. I don't know if oh yeah. I don't know if they're closed or not. Oh, I forgot about the space. This is not the best cafe to go to in Manly, but somebody's at the surfboard there, but see no one that I know. Oh, sorry, that's a lie. I ran into, I've not run into, but I walked past a member from the rooms. She was with the son, so I just kind of walked past, waved hello. So there's a Sunday morning meeting that I go to, and they can't come here sometimes, but see dog bowls, a baby seat, baby chair. They don't manage this place, this cafe there. They don't. Like, I ain't knocking on people, but still, like, it's not the best managed place. But still, takeaway coffee, okay. You can come down for takeaway stuff. Drinks, that is no food. Don't order takeaway food. It won't protect you from the cold or the wind. Oh, the wind, hence is up here, but because of this thing there, but other than that, no. But so across the road from the beach. So I just walked in here. The beach is just over there. People using, I think, a shopping trolley to move a fucking mattress. Here, take a look at it. It's a fucking mattress in a shopping trolley. I don't know why, but no idea why. Hopefully they're just moving houses and stuff, but it's getting cold. So I do have a little spot I can go to, but